like pretty explicit.
Yeah, I think he's citing, but I don't know if it is.
Probably in jest or something.
Yeah.
By the way, since it's those are tags.
Just for these parts?
Okay. It is going to be an overview, and then agent specification, and then the global ethics argument, which they call triangle pursuits. Ready? Debate is a competitive game. They have zero justification for the competitive value of their arguments or for form choice. You can counter-form solve all their offense. They could write this argument on the negative with a plan at a conference or discuss these issues outside of the debate. They could also be a reason to vote negative on presumption. The 1AC has already happened. Then we have gained the educational value from it. The genealogy is itself dead. They do not have a ballot key or winning the debate key warrant outside of their solvency claims, which means voting negative solves voting aft. Describing the power with radical vocabulary, conducting research outside of the debate, or cultivating charisma should not be a reason to vote for the affirmative, since they rely on non-falsifiable and essentially subjective judgments about individual characters, void of the possibility of deciding a debate according to the flow based on conceitedness. Voiding the conceitedness paradigm faces the competitive value of debates, since the ass speaks last and has an opportunity to reinterpret or invent new arguments, causing the negative to always lose if opponents are equally matched. It's crazy to think that we once called this a voter for fairness. Now, they on the A-spec flow, there are several agents within the debate round. The judge, ballot, and audience are all agents. In fact, in previous critical teams, such as Louisville and the Fort, chose these agents as sites of contestation, which is part of the reason why they were so effective. The failure to specify an agent in the 1AC or cross-ex, or even as a response to this argument, proves that they have no plan for solvency. There is no way to test whether or not the 1AC is a good idea. We cannot determine whether or not their communicative act is successful, or their genealogy was even accurate. Half of that stuff could have been made up, and there would be no way to disprove. This is not an accusation. It's simply a bad model of education, which means that our testing net benefit comes as a net benefit to our interpretation. Our commissar evidence says that this institutional testing of agent choice is the most important education. Conceded claim in the 2AC, which means there is no possibility of offense. They do not specify an agent. They say we are all an agent. However, this proves why specification is good, because it enables this sort of testing. It also enables negative counter-planning ground, i.e. we can choose a different agent and compare which is a better strategy for liberation, which means that this model of education solves their offense better. Now, they say that we have a good intellectual vision. However, this is opaque. At the very least, it's unclear. It is a long 45-second sentence full of polysyllables, which essentially amounts to debate changes all the time, and history is contingent. Okay, we can agree with that, but you shouldn't be able to win a debate by describing the world in an uncontroversially correct way. Now they say that we impact turn. When I say argument is not about predictability, it's simply an argument about how we get to test you within the debate round, and we can do that spontaneously or through improvisation. None of these arguments on the other floor are going to end up being offense. Now they say what external agent should we advocate, proves they have missed the boat on this argument, because it's about your agent within the space of the debate and why you should be forced to choose. Now our global ethics argument. This argument was never about predictability. Our reason Mingus evidence indicates that we are called by the face of the other to an engagement of ethical alterity, which subsumes our very being. Before we can walk into a space and to engage as ethical agents over what sort of education we should do, what sort of debate we should practice, we need to decide how we are oriented towards the world. The reason Mingus said that this prior engagement comes literally before any sort of engagement, because it is essentially ahistorical. It also is a demonstration of how we interact with any other people, which means it's a prerequisite to the space of competition in and of itself. They indicate that the only way to do this is by researching global issues, and that this is directly traded off by a local focus, i.e. focusing within the space of this debate round, which means they've conceded an ethics trade-off decided with a D-rule impact, and no 2AC arguments answer this argument that are really will cross-apply their top evidence to talk about why ethical universalism is bad. First is that we are not ethical universalists. We simply say that building global solidarity is a way to challenge local oppression better than focusing on local oppression as a starting point. Their 1AC genealogy of a history of debate within a debate space is a unique form of navel-gazing that trades off with any ability to focus on issues in other countries. Our diving and Iverson's evidence is an internal link to this, because it indicates that debate provides a breadth of research where you get to focus on issues in all sorts of different countries, which means you learn about different cultures, and that cross-cultural education uniquely promotes a form of dialogue, which is a positive educational ethical engagement. They have conceded that this is a prerequisite to all of their arguments. However, even if they win their result from one argument, those arguments prove our egotism claims, because they are focused on the inherent enjoyment of being at the expense of ethical others. This is Carlson 98. The unconditionality of my responsibility indicates a religiosity that proceeds and eludes the philosophy and theology that would thematize being or its God. 11 and that's distinctly by them tying the good to being by directly the ethical situation of human self. This incarnate self by the other point of substitution of the other incarnate goodness, and so the unity and uniqueness of the ego were already at the whole of the self-gravity of the other, and they will make an argument that our sort of refusal to engage with their criticism of resentment is itself a form of egotism, because of course we are only being ethical for our own enjoyment of the other. However, our orientation in the one entity was a radical form of self-sacrifice and openness towards otherness by engaging in global politics of solidarity through education, which is uniquely exempt from their Hatab criticism of global ethics or slave morality. This is Carlson 98. Before an ego takes on the master being itself, falls under the demand to give, giving its rendered both possible and inevitable through incarnation, which I've been given, or even before I can think to say I am, the sacrifice itself introduced meaning into being. This passivity, love not since it's not simply the possibility of death being the possibility of impossibility, love not sacrificial self cannot be understood. According to the ontology of death, meaning is not a function of the understood projection of with horizon of being towards death, but rather the death itself seems meaning only as the base responsibility can have responsibility and attachment to it. Death takes on meaning. This because from these start the other effects that despite ourselves an absolute unconditional passivity, the sacrificial self-birth, meaning in the obtuseness of being the being denies the subject of sacrifice for love, not the meaning of being issues of primordial sacrifice and the infinite responsibility of self-sacrifice over incarnate human possibilities of God without being. No response to AC at all applies to any of our Levinas arguments, which means that one of us should not be able to simply make up new arguments. Now they make all of these arguments about how they lock us into a bad method or how debate is a static loop. Debate is an incredibly pluralistic activity where you're allowed to research a whole bunch of different things. In fact, our Armstrong evidence proves this. Our argument is not that you have to talk about what we say, but rather that we offer a minimal condition by which both sides can participate in the debate with some measure of preparedness. This is not an argument that you have to be predictable, but rather that we have an opportunity to experience with unpredictability within a confined space. That is Armstrong's argument that you dropped, which means unpredictability is only possible on the negative model of education. Now, here's the flip side of this argument, is that they link to all of their predictability bad arguments because they have the same fucking debate every damn round when they just talk about framework and the different genealogies approach to the history of debate. This debate occurs over and over when you decide not to read an argument that the negative can engage and the negative is forced to have the same framework debate ad infinitum, which means that they are the stagnation and homeostasis of debate, not us. Yes, if unpredictability is good, then that is only a reason to vote negative. Now, there are profound ways in which movements and era dictatorship challenge the very notion of democracy that are valuable to genealogize or engage with. Their refusal to do this is a conversation sacrifice on the altar of people who are actually struggling against dictatorships and freedom that we could learn about. And in fact, positive solidarity with that feeds into all of our ethics arguments. Their decision not to do this is a conceded trade-off this had with an ethics impact that they have no response to. Now they make this argument that our Armstrong evidence is about rules, not norms. Rather, it is simply a suggestion that when you focus on something, you end up learning more pluralism within it, just like the constraints of the form of a sonnet allow people to innovate the types of sonnet within a constrained poetic form, or any type of art form that says you can't go outside this, you can't exceed a certain number of words allowed a certain type of innovation. Is the same is true of haiku. They say debate can become different. No shit, it does all the time. However, it often does so in a way that other teams can engage or participate. There is no negative ground that is clearly delineated by the one I see. There is no even burden of proof or threshold for negation, but the real problem is that not only are non-resolutional teams no longer radical or no longer innovative, making the same argument over and over again, but they have still not figured out a proper model of competition. Rather than promote alternative styles of education, they devolve into a non-model, a no way to know who wins the debate, which means that the 2AR is always able to say something persuasive enough for them to win by reinterpreting something that was opaque to begin with into something that now sounds very clear and persuasive. Group the portable skills debate. We never made a claim about portable skills. Our only argument is that an attempt to engage in research about global issues is good. That is not something that you have to take outside of the debate. Rather, it can be only for this debate, which means if no debate round ever happens ever again, we should still win. That they squandered an opportunity within this debate round as opportunity cost. That is a disad to their advocacy that frankly was conceded. Now they make this argument about all of these bad people who came from debate. Jessica Yates was a K debater and also became a Rand policy initiative, which demonstrates that if you're good enough to win the debate, it doesn't matter what tools you use to do that, you still can be co-opted by any sort of right-wing institution, and frankly people outside of debate are too. There's no uniqueness argument about why the portable skills within debate would be key to this. Frankly, it could be political predispositions or getting to meet a lot of fascists, which means that their argument would impact the notion of community in debate articulated through the genealogy of their 1AC and is frankly a non-starter as any sort of offense. Now, if we disprove any of the arguments in their 1AC, we should probably win the debate. If we disprove the argument that they are a closed loop, for example, the debate is in fact plural, that you can read a bunch of arguments you want there, but having a minimal condition of, for example, an advocacy statement or a plan text that you can give the other team, or rather being germane to the topic and talking about global issues, is valuable, then we should win. Draw a circle, counter advocacy, fissure within the meaning of the affirmative, peel back the words, and technically the flow of the 1AC. Any permutation warrants negative ballot, because without a proper advocacy, there is no ground to permute. You can say do both to anything, which means the negative would have literal literally no offense if we win. This argument is simply a counterplan. This is the reason you can vote against the affirmative, because it solves all of their arguments without engaging in the extreme type of localism that we at Impact turned about. How much time do I have? 2 seconds. I'm done.
What is your counterpoint?
To Fisher, verbing down there, within the meaning of the affirmative.
Why didn't we always already do that?
That's just a reason why us doing it a second time is better.
Why can't we just do it a third time?
I think you're proving our argument about a competition model.
No,
You don't have
You're
one.
proving that you made a dumb counterclaim.
We made a dumb counterplan to illustrate that there's no competition model.
But he just gave you a competition way, and your model does not.
Yes, his
include
competition way
is
was we get to say a new one every speech until the round ends with you speaking last.
So your inability to kind of so you read this Iverson evidence and you're like, debate, we're not making an argument about skills. Even after we leave debate, the skills that we have gained should help us become better advocates and citizens. What skills are you talking about, Edmund?
That part of the card is about when we leave debate, but the part of the card that is relevant to our argument is about researching for each individual debate. Just like we learn about other countries.
I just want to be clear that you did make a portable skill certificate. Now you are saying you don't want to defend that part, but you did make one.
Okay. Our argument, sort of in answer to that, was that you get portable skills from everything. Like you get portable skills from reading a genealogy that then you can take to work at the RAND Corporation. It's not unique to a particular type of
Why
argument.
should the basis of communication and knowledge be falsifiability?
Because if we can test hypotheses, then it provides a way for us to engage. You can say...
What does it mean for something to be falsifiable?
It means that you can subject it to conditions under which it could be proven wrong, and then you test it.
Could you prove a genealogy wrong?
No.
Why not? Why couldn't you defend a Marxist understanding of history? Like, all we've given you
Because
is...
Marxism is non-falsifiable. That's like a major problem.
You did defend history as an alternative to genealogy and gave several offensive arguments for why it's better, so I'm confused. Are you saying you're incapable of winning this debate, or that there's actually no argument you could present that clashes?
If you win that we're incapable of winning this debate, then I think we've won.
No, my argument is, since you did actually make a response that is competitive genealogy, you must either be saying that you do not have the skill in order to beat us, or you are saying that it's actually impossible, which is proven false by the speech you just made.
That was never our argument. Our argument is that there's, not that we can't think of one, but there's no competition model for evaluating whether or not the gender alternative is superior to what you said in the one I see.
Why models?
What?
Why do you want to model so bad?
Because the judge needs to render a decision, and they need to know how to do that.
Like, you're thrown into the ether, and you will decide. Why do you need a model? Why so scared?
Then why not just flip a coin?
You want it?
I don't. I don't think that would be very fun. I think it would waste time. I think it would waste all of our time.
I love coins.
Why do you do that?
Because...
Wait, what are you doing here?
We're having a debate.
I get that. So what are you trying to learn?
Well, I'm actually just having a lot of fun.
Right.
And if we flipped a coin, the debate would end. It would remove the competitive nature of the debate.
Why is
fun? Like, I don't understand.
I understand why a model of competition is necessary to fun. You just said that like competition existing is necessary. If you're already having fun,
because otherwise there's
solved.
Well, then the 1AC already happened. Ergo, we win.
What?